United Kingdom.
Hurst Castle is a 16th century fort located on the south coast of England in Hampshire. It is still standing in one piece, having seen many skirmishes come and go, but almost having been involved in none. Hurst Castle's construction came about in the early 1530s owing to England's ever-growing tensions with France and the Holy Roman Empire. As was tradition at the time, the crown would usually leave the likes of coastal defences to the local lords, but Henry VIII's faffing with Christianity sparked fears of an invasion from the Catholics. Not only was this a religious war, but Henry VIII's move to divorce his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, was seen as a direct insult to the Holy Roman Emperor, as she was his aunt. This ultimately led to the boys willy-wangling and declaring war against each other. Interesting to see how politics hasn't changed very much. This is ultimately what led to the intervention by the Crown to construct several coastal fortifications. The location of the construction of Hurst Castle was a strategic one, sitting on the entrance of the Solent, which was and is an inlet of coastline which leads to the military bases further inland of Portsmouth and Southampton. Works were completed on the castle in the 1540s at a cost of £3,200. Today that would be about £2.5 million. Once completed, Hurst Castle was kitted out with lots of heavy firepower, from cannons to handguns, to slings to bows. For its time, Hurst Castle, now complete with moat, was considered to be one of the strongest coastal forts in the country. By the late 1550s, England had made peace with France, and the whole construction was essentially pointless, but nevertheless went on to be manned by captains. By the 1600s, England was at peace with France and the recently disputed Spain, and all coastal defencing was minimised. This ultimately led to the castle falling into disrepair. By the late 1620s, war with the Flemish broke out, and Hurst Castle was no longer in a good condition to defend itself, which led to the government having to carry out urgent weapon replenishment. In the 1640s, civil war in England had broken out between the Crown and Parliament, and Hurst Castle was under the control of the parliamentarians. For a short time, it was used to detain the king before his trial and execution. In the 1650s, the parliamentarians reinforced the castle owing to the threat of a royalist invasion. In the 1660s, Charles II was restored to the throne, and the control of the castle was now back under the crown. The castle was quickly demobilised of the parliamentarians, and the king ordered the soldiers from the Isle of Wight to be deployed there. Once again, the castle had to have essential maintenance work carried out, as well as weapon replenishment. The castle would now go on to be used as a military base until the early 18th century, when its use was converted into a sort of holy jail for priests. Up until now, the castle had a side reputation of being a hotspot for smugglers, even being serviced by some of the most notorious smugglers of its time. By the late 1700s, the castle once again fell into disrepair, and the weapons could no longer be mounted on the bastions. Water had also started to seep in by now, and the castle was classed as one of the poorest condition on the coastline. By this point, the castle's surrounding was now mainly being used by local fishermen, and it was during this time that the lighthouse was built, along with the Shipwrights' Arms Inn. In the 1790s, war once again broke out with France, prompting the extensive modernization of the castle to support the then modern weaponry. Once again, the castle didn't play a part in the war, and was instead used as an army hospital. Is it just me, or do they keep spending money on this thing for it never to be used for actual defense? Anyway, in the 1850s, the castle was upgraded again to support heavier guns due to the novelty threat of steamships. Hurst Castle was once again brought up to standards and was kitted out to the roof with firepower. It was also during this time that the first communication cables were laid between the castle, Key Havens, Gons Point and Southampton. By the end of the 19th century, modern military technology once again rendered Hurst Castle obsolete and was once again no longer up to modern warfare. In the late 1850s, England was once again fearing another French invasion, so a royal commission recommended that Hurst be upgraded. Again, which it was. In the 1880s, the narrow gauge railway was constructed to cart supplies in and out of the castle. In the 1890s, the castle needed upgrading again due to naval artillery advancement and faster warships, particularly torpedo boats. By the time the First World War rolled around, the castle needed to be kitted out again with modern weaponry. Now in the 1940s, with World War II starting, Hurst was rearmed and the Isle of Wight Rifles Regiment was sent there to be stationed, during which time another extension was added to the castle. After the end of World War II in 1945, all the weapons were removed and the battery was closed, and shortly after the guardianship was passed over to the Ministry of Works. In the 1980s, English Heritage took over the running and maintenance of the castle, and it started to be used as a public attraction. By 2015, the castle was welcoming 40,000 visits a year. Today, the castle continues to be used as a public attraction and is protected under UK law as a protected ancient monument. The lighthouse is still in use today and is Grade 2 listed. But the story doesn't end there. Over the last couple of centuries, the sea has been eating away parts of the castle and its foundations. Last year in 2021, the castle was once again declared in urgent need of upgrades and repairs, and works were started. So here we have it. Once again, the castle is being upgraded. Let's just hope they don't have to fill it with weapons again this time. If you want to visit Hurst Castle, you can get to it via the 2-mile walk via Milford-on-Sea, or you can take the ferry service from Key Haven. Adult return ferry tickets cost £7 and castle entry costs £4.50. The castle is open April till October, morning till afternoon. Opening times may vary.